let's start. Okay, so let's continue. Any questions before we continue? So I'm going to take this, the file, the count from, digits from file, and I'm going to change it a little bit. So I'm going to save it differently. And this time I would like to count the characters, so all the characters. And I'm just renaming it. If I save as, and it's called count. So what is the difference between count digits and count characters? If we have this, the digits for files, for example, there is the equal sign, the space in there, okay? And if I, well, open the plans file, then there are all kind of characters there, right? The letters, the star, the whatever. So these are all characters, and we'd like to count how many times each character appears. In the count digits, when it was still count digits, we relied on a counter that was a list of 10 elements, of 10 zeros. With characters, we have a problem. First of all, because there are a lot more possible characters. Actually, there are some 60,000 characters or so in the world, probably more. If you're restricting ourselves to digits, that was 10. If you're restricting ourselves to the Latin letters, so the ones that we are using in English, the Latin letters, then we have, I think, 26, if I remember correctly, twice 2, because lowercase and uppercase. But if we start talking about letters in Spanish, then we have a couple of other letters, and in other languages, in other European languages, you have some all kind of extra letters. In Hungarian, you have like, how many? We have 14 vowels, so the 5 from Latin, and then 9 more with all kind of dots and apostrophes and so on. And in Hebrew, so you have the letters in Hebrew or Arabic or Chinese or whatever languages. You have all kind of other characters. And then you also have the emojis. They are also characters. So there are a lot. So we can't create upfront a list of them, and because there's no point actually. I mean, there are 65,000, let's say, or maybe 100,000 different of these characters. But in each text that we are going to count, there is a very limited set of them. Okay, so if we create here, first of all, if we create here a list of 100,000 elements, and we are using only, like, say, 100 elements of them, that's a huge waste of memory. One thing. The other thing is that we need some mapping from the characters, or later, if we are counting words or strings in general, then we need some mapping from that string to the actually place where we are counting. And it can be solved. It is being solved in all kind of other languages that don't provide what Python provides. But in Python, the much better solution is to use, instead of using a list, to use a dictionary. A dictionary is basically a mapping between strings, okay, or let's say strings for now, strings to some value, for example, a number. So the string can be only a single letter, character as well. So we can say that we can create a dictionary that will be a mapping from a character to the number of times it appears. And the dictionary starts out empty. So this variable is going to start empty. And we will only add a new key and value. So these are key value pairs. A new pair we're only going to add when we actually encounter one character. So let's say let's first of all replace this count with a characters. Okay, so we have this one. Okay, and then we're going to create a counter. Now the counter is going to be an empty dictionary, which looks like this. Okay, a pair of curly braces. That's just created an empty dictionary. And then we go over the characters. We still go over. We don't care about whether it's numeric or not. We count all of them. we don't have an index anymore. We just access the counter in the ch place and add 1 to it. Now, we have a problem here, and we'll have to fix it later, but that's basically what we do. The problem is that what happens when we encounter the character the first time? Okay, then we can't add to it 1, right? So first we have to check it if ch in counter, then add to it. And if there is no else, if there was no counter, no value there, then I can copy this and just assign 1. Okay, actually, it might be more logical to put it in the other direction. So when there is no, then put 1, and then if there is, then put plus add 1. But then it would be a negative here, and actually I could put there if ch not in counter, then it's added, else. Okay, so we can do this one as well. Maybe it's clearer. So what I'm saying is that if the character is not in the counter yet, okay, it hasn't been counted yet, first time we see it, then put in the counter at that location, okay, the number 1. Otherwise, so if we have already seen it, just increment it by 1. Okay, so that's how we count them. And then display digit counter. So now this is not digit counter, it's character counter, right? Well, we can just call it counter. Okay, so, but we don't, instead of going over the range of the digits, we have to go over the keys. So if for not digit is going to be character in the counter keys. Okay, so this method, the keys method of a dictionary, will return all the keys that are in that dictionary. And this is not a digit now anymore, and so we rename it. It's a character. Okay, we can also print that, print counter. Okay, let's actually start with that. Comment this out, and the rest is I think the same. Here too. Counter. I hope that I didn't use the same word twice here. So Python 3, day 4, count characters. It wants a file, right? And we have day 4, digits. So I'm going to use it on the digits now. Okay, so this is how the dictionary looks like. It says 1, we have 4 times, the 2, we have 1 times, the equal sign, we have 1 time, the 3, 1 time. So these are the pairs. These are, each one of which is a key value pair in the dictionary. The key is the string, the current character, and the value is just how many times it appeared so far. And here the character 2, it appeared once, the character equal sign appeared once. I can show you, this is the content of the file, okay? Here, 1, 2 equal sign. So this is how it works. Okay. Well, I'll give you a few seconds to look at how we're doing it, in case you would like to ask any question about this. Okay, so instead of this now, I enable the code that goes over them. And so it look, not this one, I can run. And so now you can see the report the same way we had the characters. Now the order of this order of them is basically arbitrary. Okay, I think it's actually the order that first appeared, but for our purposes, it's arbitrary. Okay. We might want to say that it's sorted. And now the keys are going to be sorted according to ABC order, okay, or the order of the characters. So this is a space, right? The space appeared once. Equal sign appeared once. Okay. We have another one, the more digits. It shows all the digits and then how many times they are. And we can run it also on the plan. Okay, so this is what we got on the plan. Okay. The hash mark 5 times, the opening parentheses 3 times, the closing three times, star 8 times, and so on. Lowercase letter, uppercase letters, the backtick. There's one issue here that might be bothering you a little bit, is this thingy at the top. So what we have here is looks like you have 2 lines for spaces, and it's also unclear why here the printing started immediately after the command, and here the printing starts with an empty row here. You see? Here, I ran the program and it immediately started with 0. The same with the previous one here. Now it started with the space, but it immediately after the next line. And here, we have an empty row. Any guesses what that empty row might be? So the thing is that in the other 2 files that we tried, the more digits and the digits, we only had a single line of content. In the plans, we have multiple lines. So we have in this line all the text can you see, but at the end, we also have a character which we call new line. You don't really see it because what you see is that the next item is in the next line. You don't see a sign, a special sign there. Here too. Okay, so here the next thing is on the new line. There is something there which is at the end invisible. It's invisible like a space, like the space here, right? We have a space here. It's not really visible. It's just you see it because there is nothing there. The new line, you see it because the next thing is in the next line. So here we counted the new lines, and this is where you can see here it's printed the new line, which means that it automatically got to the next line and then printed out the counter. So and then this one is the number of spaces. So basically this says that apparently we have 21 lines in the plans file. Let's see. Yeah, there are 21 lines. The 26 is there's no line there. There's no content anymore. There's no end of it. Okay. 51 spaces. Okay, I won't count them. We have a program for that. Okay, and so on. So now you might wonder how you might want to change somehow how to display this, of course, to be less confusing. Oh, I have an idea actually. Let's try this one. You might want to skip the new line and so on. So one way is to, where is the display part? Okay, let me resize this. So the print character, okay, instead of this one, we are going to change a little bit. I'll leave it here, but I'm giving it a different one. So I'm going to put here an F string. And the character will be there and the counter. So the whole thing is going to be an F string. Okay, so far nothing changed. But here I'm going to put, let's say, a less than sign and greater than sign around the character. So it will be clear what is the character. And I run the program again. Now it's uglier. But now you can see that here it starts here and ends here. So there is a new, you will notice much easier that that there's something there. Maybe if I put single quotes there, instead of the less than sign and greater than sign, and run it again. Now it looks better. And still you can see that there is something strange because one single quote and another single quote and then a number. Okay, so this might help. Okay, so I think that actually we finished with this one quite faster than I expected. Any questions? Now the number, the statistics will change because I changed the file. Okay. Yeah, it's already the placeholder for the timestamps. So one of the solutions for this new line would be, let's think about a couple of solutions. Let's say we don't want to count the new lines. Let's run it again before the plans. So we have now 15 rows. So one of the solutions would be to say to skip that one. So if ch equal to new line, then continue. Okay, we don't want to count the new lines. Let's run this. Okay, now they are gone. Okay, no new lines. That would be one solution. Other solution, other option would be to read the file, and let's let's rewrite this code. Okay, I'll save it separately because I would like to make some bigger changes, and then it would be better to keep the old one as well. So save as, and this time I'm saving as, oh, the screen is too small. Count characters from file line by line. Okay. Now I'm changing slightly the whole thing because what we did for now, it was a nice way of reusing code that we already had. So we already had the code that, given a string, could count how many characters are there. But this requires us to read the whole content of the file into memory at the same time. And this is okay if the file is small. But what if you have a huge file? Okay, what if you have a huge log file of gigabytes? Will you read all that into memory? Can your computer handle all that content? So the big files, usually sometimes you can't. And then for such occasions, you might want to read the file line by line. And now I have to change the whole thing slightly. I'm going to move the file name to the count characters. Well, instead of giving the count characters the text, I'm going to pass in the file name. Okay. So where is this count characters? Now it gets the file name. And we have the counter. Okay. And we are opening now the file. But we can't read, we don't want to read the whole thing into memory. So what we do is we go over for text in file handler. Okay, so this is now, instead of using any method called read or readline or any of them, instead of them, I'm iterating over the file handler, which is strange. I admit that it looks strange. Behind the scene, what Python does, it calls the readline method every time. Readline is without the S, so just one single line. So basically it does this. But it's nicer to have it without the read lines. Actually, I'm going to see if it works. And now, actually, right, let me go back here. So this was the code. Okay, I have to fix some in a different way. We go over the text, but now we haven't received the text. So we need an extra loop. And that's why I returned to what we had for text in file handler. Okay, I would probably rename this variable instead of text, but for now it's okay. So we had to add another iteration, other loop around it. This one is going to read in one line from the file, and then on that line we go over all the characters. When we are done with the current line, then it will read a new line into this variable, replacing the old text. Okay, so maybe it would be better if we call this, instead of text, we contain line, row, whatever. Okay, and even that one, I'm going to print it out. Print, so you can see what's in there. Line. Okay, and I preface it with the word line just so you can see it. And then I comment out for now this whole thing because we don't want to see that. Just okay. Yes, and I'm running the wrong program. Oh, this is okay. So this is good. So I ran this. I just hit up arrow and ran it, and I was surprised to see this result because we are not counting anything, right? We have just commented out. I was expecting to see the lines. But what happened, and I immediately thought about it, that I ran the wrong program. Now, the thing is that this happened to me quite often, or happens to me sometimes, okay? It happens more for people who are beginners, but I see it all the time also with experienced people, that they are editing the file, running the program, and the program doesn't change, no matter how much they edit the file. And then it takes them sometimes a lot of time to realize that they are editing one file and running a different file. And it's even worse or much harder to understand when you have a main file and you have separate library files, and the main file is using those library files, and you're editing the library file and you're running the main file. So it's right that you are not running the same thing. But for some reason, the program file doesn't load the file you are editing, but it loads a different file. And then it will be really, really different. So it's much more difficult to realize that you're editing one thing and then using something else. And it can be very frustrating. So just notice that it can happen. Yeah. And obviously, again, I forgot the F from the F string. Okay, so what do we see here? We see here that it says line, and then the content of one row, and then we have a line, and it's empty, and then all of these empty things. But you can see that the lines are printed, just that there are some extra. So these are, I guess, actual empty rows here. Okay, so after the install Jupyter Notebook, there are 2 empty rows and then the assignment. So the Jupyter Notebook, 2 empty rows and the assignment. But we have these extra empty rows in between. Why is that? Because in this iteration, line contains the new line at the end of the row. So Python reads in the row and the new line at the end that we can't really see, but it's there. So what we might want to do is do this. Line equals to line rstrip. I think you don't have to give it anything. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So right strip means from the right side of the string line, remove and the default is the new lines. You can say what to remove, but by default, it will remove the new line from the end. So this one reads in the lines, line by line or row by row, including the trailing new line at the end. That's how it knows that the line ended, right? That there was a new line. This one takes the line, removes right strip at the end, from the end, the new line, and the new line is assigned back to the same variable. Because we don't need the old one, right? So now line contains the content of the line without the new line. We don't need this row, this pair of rows anymore in that case. We don't need this one. I mean, it's commented out. And now we can have the report. Okay. So in case the file is big, then this is a better solution.
I'm used to working with MATLAB, unfortunately, which is why I'm excited to switch to Python. But is there is there like a workspace or some equivalent in Python that just places like instead of displaying things, places our output into like a matrix into a workspace or some other way that we can access without printing?
Right. So what you're talking about is the development environment, okay? And MATLAB probably has a better development environment than Python. I'm not sure. What you're talking is more about the interactive mode of development. And in general, so I think in general there are two types of programming. One of them is when you're writing an application, and for that you probably will use Visual Studio Code or PyCharm. And then another part is when you're more exploring things, and it's especially more fitting for data scientists, and probably for many part of your work might be more fitting. And for that, there are some other tools. One of them that people like, I think, is called spyder. It comes with Python, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see if spyder, no. I don't know. Maybe it's not installed for me.
Maybe with a Y, I don't know.
Sorry?
Spider. Oh yeah, Spider.
Oh, it's in Y. It's with Y.
Yeah.
It's still not installed with Y either. Okay. I rarely use it. Okay. So this is one thing that you can. So it's more for the scientific thing. Okay. So you can explore this. And there is another thing which is called Jupyter Notebook that we are going to see. Yeah, I can actually show it now. Okay, so this is Jupyter Notebook. Okay. Yeah, actually, I wanted to show it on Windows. Let's see if I can. Okay. Let me try to run this. Jupyter. So in order to install it, I have to type in pip install Jupyter. I think that's enough. Okay. I have to fix my computer. I have upgraded it the last week, and it's broke as well. This one as well. So I won't spend this time now on this one. But to your question, then these are, I think, Jupyter Notebook and spyder with a Y are probably the two most common environments. I don't think that Visual Studio Code provides it. Actually, maybe it does, but there is one big warning with all of these workspace, and we have this, is that way of programming and typing and whatever, the idea is that you somehow load the data. Okay, actually, the two things here. One of them is that you would like to get the content of the variables displayed, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is a more interactive way of development. So in order to show the content of the variables, you have to run the program, right? And the mode of Visual Studio Code is that we are running the program and it terminates, we make some editing, and then we start the program from zero, and it starts loading the data from zero. So while you're editing, you don't really have any data in any workspace or in any memory, okay? And that's the mode of operation. The other way, spyder supports this, and the Jupyter Notebook supports this, is that you have a Python running somewhere in the background, and you are writing some code and telling that Python, okay, run this piece of code in addition to everything else you have already ran in the same process. So all the variables you declared already and added values to it and data you loaded from the disk, it's in the memory already, and this Python is running. And sorry if this is making noise, I just hit the microphone. And that way of programming might make sense or makes sense when you're exploring some relatively big data set that you don't want to load every time when you're experimenting with more code and more code, because maybe it's time consuming to load it, okay? But there is a huge risk in there. And the risk is that you make some preparation, you make some computations, this is all in the workspace, then you change the code that made that preparation, that made that computation, but you still rely on the result of that computation in the rest of your experimentation. And then when you eventually have to shut this down and start it again because you're switching computers, because there was a power failure or whatever reason, you give the code to someone else, they start from zero. But that code that you used to create the data in the workspace is gone now because you changed it, okay? And you haven't noticed it because the data was always there in the workspace. So that's the risk, and you have to remember and to avoid that problem. Okay, I hope that it answered somehow.
Yes, thank you.
One more note, actually, that something that I don't really use here, I hardly use it, is the debugger. I don't think it's even configured for me. So in the program, in the tools like the Visual Studio Code or PyCharm, there is something what we call a debugger. A debugger would run the program again from zero, okay, so from the beginning, but you would be able to, like here, put breakpoints. Let's see if, actually I can't run this because it needs the file. Okay, let's forget this. Okay, so I can, let's try to see if I can. No, I can't. Okay. So you can put here breakpoints, okay? Like here I clicked on no, outside. Which means that if I run the program now with the debugger, then it will start running the program and stop at this point while the program is still sort of running, but right now stopped. And then you can put the mouse above the variables, and I think you can even define there here the debug console, I think here, and then you can see the content of those variables while the program is running. But it's still not the interactive development. So if now you are changing the code, you can't really tell the currently running debugger, okay, just run this code as well and run this code. And now I change the function and run that again. You can't really do that. You will then stop the program and rerun it. You can still see the content of the variables here and probably here, but you have to rerun the program. Okay? And all these things can hide your part of the code, which is fun. I hardly use it. Anyway, any more questions? Okay, I think then we are done with this material for now and for today. I'm going to, the recording will be available in a couple of hours, I guess. And the assignment, I will send the assignment, add the assignment to the README file and then send an email. So thank you for watching and please like the video on YouTube. See you.